Welcome back to Action for the Soul. This week's Parashat is Parashat Vayakhel Pekudei. And I want to start with a question. Parashat begins with a very strange word. Pasuk says, Vayakhel Moshe et kol adat b'nei Israel. Vayomer lehem, elo d'rishat tziva Hashem la'asodotam. Right? And Moses gathered the entire congregation of Israel and said, and these are the things that God commanded to do. What are the things that God commanded to do? The Torah almost never ever begins with a command, with a national gathering. You don't see this anywhere. It's usually V'daber Shema Moshe, Darel b'nei Israel, period. And then we know that the way that worked was Moses received this transmission from God. Moshe then brought it to Aaron to Yoshua, Yoshua to the Zikanim, and Zikanim to the Jewish people. This is very different. This is a direct line of transmission. God says to Moshe, I want you to gather all the people together, bring him here, and I'm going to teach them two very important laws. The one is the Hilchot Shabbat, and the second is the building and the construction of the Mishkan. And the question is obvious. Why do these two mitzvot require gathering the nation together? There must be something there, meaning like if every other mitzvah was taught in a very different kind of way, what's unique about bringing the people together? Now, the Torah tells us that when the Jewish people were at Har Sinai, it says, V'yichan sham Yisrael neged hahar, and Israel encamped opposite the mountain. Rashi asks the question, it says, V'yichan sham Yisrael. The word V'yichan is grammatically incorrect. It should have said, V'yachnu sham Yisrael. V'yichan is in the singular, and he says over there, Ki ish echad b'lev echad. The reason why the pasuk says, V'yichan sham Yisrael, is because the Jewish people at that point reached a very high level of Jewish unity. Ki ish echad b'lev echad. Unfortunately, today, currently, 2026, it doesn't seem like there was a lot of Jewish unity a couple of weeks ago. People protesting in the streets and burning tires and all kinds of craziness. That leads to destruction. And when Am Yisrael finally recognized that all Jewish people, Kol Yisrael, Kol, keyword, Kol Yisrael, Arevim Zel, all Jewish people matter. We are all interconnected, religious, not religious, Hasidic, Sephardic, Ashkenazi, whatever, we're all interconnected. That is when our enemies cannot do anything to us. When we're united, we have that special power. But over here, the Jewish people required, the prerequisite to Matan Torah was this kind of unity. At Har Sinai, the Jewish people were completely unified, but that unity unfortunately did not last. We saw in last week's Parsha that the Jewish people saw Moshe wasn't coming down, and what did they build? They built the golden calf. Okay, something broke. And that breaking was unity. We know that they committed the three cardinal sins at that moment. Avodah Zarah, Shvichat Damim, they killed Chur, and Gili Arayot. All three of the three cardinal sins were committed on that day. Right? Complete breakaway. Okay? The sin creates separation. Right? The pasuk says in Mishlei, "Leta'ava yivakesh nifrad." A person who separates himself seeks his own desire. A person who is alone, okay, is narcissistic. Okay, when people separate from the community, they begin to pursue personal goals instead of collective purpose. And when we live in a generation where everyone's thinking about their own unique needs and wants, my friends, that is super destructive. So what is the Mishkan? The Mishkan, let's do the Mishkan first. The Mishkan and, the Mishkan and Shabbat are the antidote, obviously. Okay? So the Mishkan says as follows. This is why the command for the Mishkan was given at Vayakhel. Every Jew had to donate something. Daber b'nei Yisrael v'ikhu li teruma me'et kol ish asher yidavenu libo. Take from me a contribution from every single person whose hearts inspire them. Every person contributed differently. Each person felt a sense of need, an obligation to go out and do something. Remember, in the Torah, the most important thing is action. Inaction, I would argue, is a sin. Sitting on the sidelines, not a Jewish principle. To be a cheerleader, to be a fan, God doesn't want fans. He doesn't need you to cheer him on. You know, he wants players. He wants you to play the game. He wants you to go out and do the thing that Judaism demands of us. So every single person contributes differently. Vaya Mishkan ha-Mishkan echad. The Mishkan became one. When Moshe lifts it and pulls it up together, it's one. It unifies the Jewish people. So the Mishkan wasn't just a building. right? It was a spiritual architecture that unified the Jewish people together. And the Maharal says that he says something fascinating. He says that the Mishkan represents the collective soul of the Jewish people. That every single soul is an expression of Adam's soul. That we all come from this unified space of Adam, right? He was this megalopolis, massive soul generator. And each one of us is an expression of a different area of Adam's body, but we're all one. Just like the human body has many limbs but one soul, the Jewish people have many individuals but one spiritual identity. Mishkan expressed that special physical unity. I'm sorry, people just keep joining into this thing late. And that is what the Mishkan represents. It represents this physical unity itself. Each Jew was a piece of the structure. Each Jew had a particular role. Some of us are more of the menorah. Some of us, like myself, is more like the shulchan. We like to eat bread, right? Some of us are more like the mizbeach. We like to eat meat. Some of us are more like, some of us are more intellectual, cerebral. Each part of the Mishkan represents a different expression of a Jew. But without every piece in the Mishkan cannot be the Mishkan. It's incomplete. So the first thing the Mishkan teaches us is this concept of unity. Now, Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch says something fascinating. He says the Torah does not say, give me a donation. It says instead, v'yikchu li. It doesn't say v'yitnu li. It doesn't say take for me. Why take? Right? Why? It doesn't say it doesn't give. It says take for me. Why? Because when a person gives something sacred, he doesn't lose anything. We believe that. Take for me, not v'yiten. V'yiten is different. Giving to the Mishkan was not charity. Giving to the Mishkan was joining the national mission. Giving to the Mishkan was about recognizing that everything that I have is an extension of what God has given to me. It's not mine. The word v'yiten, right, is I'm giving to get back in return. Hashem's not saying v'yiten, v'yikach, take from them. Let them recognize that when they give on that level, it's higher, right? Because someone who gives when they're commanded, believe it or not, is greater than someone who gives when they're not commanded, which is very counterintuitive. It would seem like a child who cleans his room on his own is greater than the child who cleans his room because his mom or dad said so. And the Chachamim say it's the opposite is true. Why? Because the nature of a human being is when you're told to do something, what do you want to do? Opposite. Don't tell me what to do, mom. Don't tell me what to do, dad. No. When we are asked, there's a greater sense of courage and moral strength to listen to what the parents said, because the natural inclination to do the opposite. If a child is cleaning his room, you know why? It's because he has OCD and he wants to be clean. It has nothing to do with him or her being a good kid that cleans their room. That has to do with their obsessive nature, right? But at the core, what the Torah is saying, when you do something because you were told, that is greater. The Chachamim point out that one of the things that were in the Mishkan was what? The Aharon. And the Aharon had these two angels on top of it known as the Keruvim. The Keruvim were two angels. Some say they were two children looking at each other, and others say it was a male and female angel looking at each other. Irrespective of how we understand that Midrash, represents the Shekhinah and the Jewish people, right? When the Jewish people were unified, it says that these two angels would somehow magically embrace one another, hold each other. A beautiful symbol of God loving the Jewish people, but that love is contingent on our ability to love each other, our ability to care for the other. But when they sinned, God forbid, these angels turned away from one another. They turned around, back to back, and no longer face to face. And therefore the Keruvim themselves represent this deep relationship between the Jewish people themselves, and unity between the people is a reflection of the unity with God. When we are no longer united, it is very difficult to connect to God. But when we're united, everything opens. And you see this, by the way, post-October 7th, unfortunately, on that horrible day, how many Jews felt this deep connection to one another? How much easier was it for these people who are so removed from their Yahadut, from their Judaism, somehow were able to connect again? That ability to connect is a spiritual thing. And it came from the fact that we as a people were united. They were open to the possibility of being there with someone else. And that connection has led them to God. Now let's talk about Shabbat for a minute. The second mitzvah that Moshe taught them was Hilchot Shabbat. Now, we believe that Shabbat also creates unity. Laman yenuach avdecha v'amatcha kamocha. The Torah said in Dvarim so that your servant and maidservant rests like you. Think about what Shabbat does. I mean, I'm assuming everyone here is Shomer Shabbat. I'm assuming you're listening to this, you're Shomer Shabbat. My 13-year-old son says, Abba, I can't imagine a world without Shabbat. That's what my son says to me. He's 13 years old. I can't imagine a world without Shabbat. I feel so bad for those people that don't have the ability of completely cutting themselves away from the world and just being in a state of being on Shabbat, where you don't feel obligated to go out and do something, where you could sit and be with your family and not feel like you're being pulled away. How many 13-year-old kids could sit at a table with adults for 2.5 hours and eat non-adult food and listen to adult conversation? What happens in that moment? Unity. You build a family, they become one. When the family becomes one, the communities become one. The community becomes one, the larger area becomes one. That unity has an amplifying effect. So over here, at the lowest level, Laman Yanuchu Avdecha V'Amtecha Kamodcha. Right? We want Shabbat so that your servants can be like you. We want them to be unified. Even the maidservant has a special day on Shabbat itself. It creates social equality. One day a week, every single person rests, master, servant, father, son, mother, daughter, rich, poor. Everyone stands equally before God on Shabbat. It's not just a day of rest. It's a day that resets the week. Rabbi Sacks says something very powerful. He says that the secret of Jewish revival is as follows. He says most nations are built on power. Most nations are built on land, ethnicity. The Jewish nation was built on a covenant. What does that even mean? A covenant requires social responsibility. And this is a quote. He says, Judaism is the only civilization built on the principle of that responsibility is shared. Responsibility isn't something for one individual. It's all of us are responsible. And therefore the Mishkan was a project, the first national project of collective responsibility. Every single Jewish person had to contribute. You want to build a Beit Knesset? Unfortunately or fortunately, Edmund Safra had the schut of building this building on his own. But it would have been a much greater project had he found 20 other families to build it with him. Well, why should we contribute to the synagogue? He's so rich. He had all the money in the world. No, that's a mistake. The real lesson of community building is community involvement. Everyone has to participate. Everyone has to be part of that creative process. And the Sfat Emes says, Asher Yidavenu Libo, whose heart inspires us. He said each person gave from his heart. Each person had a specific purpose that was unified. Unity is something that he says is not created by force, but rather it is part of a spiritual, shared direction that we each take. Each person here is very different, right? We're all very different. But it doesn't matter where we're coming from. What matters is we're all going. You decided to come here on a Wednesday afternoon to listen to a class, okay? I don't care where you are religiously, spiritually. If you're in this room, you're all on the same ship. You're moving forward. What you're telling me is you want to grow. You're looking for something more deeply. You want something more profound, and so on and so forth. And that means you're in the same spiritual journey. Rav Kook says, Kol Yisrael nishmat echathem. All of the souls of the Jewish people share one soul. How beautiful is that? When a Jew feels separated from each other, that's an illusion. If you don't recognize that I'm your brother and that I don't recognize you're my sister, I'm living an illusion. I'm living a lie. Because the reality is, we all share something unique and profound. We're all interconnected. So on a deeper level, the Jewish people are spiritually connected no matter what we do. No matter how much I do, or God forbid how little I do, we're all connected. And the Mishkan is the facility that revealed that hidden unity that we all shared. It didn't matter if you were rich or poor, because at the end of the day, everyone came to the Mishkan to help build it. Everyone stood up and said, I want to be involved. We are all being engaged in that same unique way. So today, we live in a time where I would say Jewish unity is fragile. Right now, we're fighting a war with Iran, and so there's the illusion of Jewish unity, unfortunately. Political divisions, religious divisions, cultural divisions. But Vayakhel is very, very clear. The Jewish people become unified when we work on something that is sacred together. Coming to a class is a sacred mission. When we build together, when we give together, when we pursue a higher mission together, we are creating a new mitzvot of unity. I would even say, on a microcosm, that in a healthy marriage, right, that unity, right, the goal of marriage is for two people to recognize that they're one. That unity is a microcosm, or what I would call the spiritual engine that builds a family. And when that couple has that unity, it trickles down to the children. They have a sense of cohesion and unity. You know, it's actually interesting. My parents were separated, and I remember as a teen, and this is not no offense to my family in any way, I just didn't want to be at home. You know, I wanted to get out. I didn't want to see it. And so when I had my children, I found myself struggling with the fact that my kids never wanted to leave. Right? Like, give me some space. Like, get out of here. You're such nerds. Like, go out with your friends. But they loved being home because thank God, we created an environment where they felt so loved and appreciated. And as much as I want to take credit for that, it's not just me. It's an extension of the unity that my wife and I created in our family. And so if we were able to pull people to our home and pull people, it pulled our children as well. It's very, we'll use the word, catchy. It's something that is that has the power of not only inspiring, but it has the power of creating a deeper vision for a future act of unity, right? But it starts at home. So Hashem says, you know what? You sinned. You went ahead and you built a Mishkan. You instead of building a Mishkan, you built the Egel. Instead of recognizing that you're all one, you selfishly thought for each of you on your own that this is what you want, that you broke away from everything that I gave to you. Hashem says, I'm going to fix it. You know how I'm going to fix it? I'm going to give you a second chance. I'm going to teach you how to do this together. Number one is Shabbat. Shabbat is letting go of all the insanity that we had in life. Instead of using the work week for becoming, Shabbat is a day of being. Shabbat is a day of recognizing that, this is who I am right now. And at the end of Shabbat, by the way, this is what Havdalah is for. It's asking yourself, who do you want to be this week? It's reflecting on what the week was like, using Shabbat as a spiritual anchor and saying, you know what, I'm pegging myself here. I don't want to slip anymore. I want to move forward. Havdalah is breaking away from what Shabbat is and opening yourself to the possibility of all the things that the work week has to bring to you. It's about becoming again and growing and growing and growing. Family, friends, business, life, and so on and so forth. Where does it start? Mishkan. We don't have a Mishkan today. We have this nice little building. It's like a Mishkan. It's called the Beit Knesset. Vayakhel is community. You can't do it alone. We need to have each other. And the more we as a people recognize, I'd say even more than that, the more human beings recognize we're all interconnected, the faster we're going to see a world where there's no more hunger, no more poverty, no more slavery, no more stupidity, a world of unity, a world filled with light and blessing. B'ezrat Hashem, we will see that soon. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thank you so much for listening.